Another Ants on a Rock video. Welcome to the Ant Corner. My massive multi-species vivarium. Episode 6 already. This one is my Polyrhachis Dives. I wanted to do a video and show you what my Polyrhachis Dives have been doing lately and tell you a little bit about them for anyone that doesn't know the species. So as you can see here, they are weaving a new nest. This is because they've got so many eggs and larvae they need to expand. How they do this is they carry their larvae about using it like glue. The end produces, they produce like a little glue out of their mouth parts at the very end of the larvae by the adult worker ant massaging the larvae with their antenna and running it back and forth across the area where they want it, like a glue gun or some kind of threading thing, weaving the bits of moss and sticks and whatever else they've collected into a nest. They also incorporate leaves and other bits and bobs and whatever they need into the nest. As you can see, they're using parts of the plants that are growing around them. They use their legs to pull the leaves towards their nest and where they want to weave it to. They hold it in place whilst another worker comes along with the larvae and glues it into place. It's quite cool because you get quite a few ants doing this at the same time on the larger leaves. One of the main reasons that they're doing so well is that they are polygamous, which means they can have multiple queens. In this colony, I know there is at least 3 queens. I don't think there's any more yet because I haven't seen any elates. Elates is when the colony reaches a certain size and it starts to produce its own male and female drones and queen elates. They go out during the nuptial flights and mate, basically becoming new fertile queens. This colony also has the ability to do it within the nest because there is already multiple queens, meaning multiple DNA lines, meaning they won't mix DNA and they won't interbreed. They will breed within the nest quite happily. So I'm just going to cut back some of the plants to give us a little bit extra view and skip back, forwards a few hours. As you can see, the nest now is completely built up and changed. Activities also died down a bit. But this doesn't mean that they've stopped. I expect they're still on the internal side building. And as you can see, it's going up the glass, which means I'm expecting they'll go back to it and build a bit more later. Polyrhachis dives really thrive in a warm, humid environment. I like to keep mine at around 30 degrees in the nest area and between 27 to 29 in the outworld area. Humidity level of about 75 to 90%. Yes, this is very high, but this is what they're used to in their native environment of the Asian rainforests and tropics. Polyrhachis dives are arboreal, which means that they live above ground and in the trees and weave things like this. So this is the main reason I put them in a bioactive setup with plants, giving them the opportunity to nest wherever they like. You can also keep them in man-made nests and the shop-bought things. Obviously we won't recommend the gimmick nests, always get a proper nest, and they will thrive. But I do prefer the bioactive method, mainly because it's easier to maintain that heat and humidity that they really thrive in and give them the environment so that they can choose where to nest. Creating the nest in the leaves does often cause the leaves to die off, which means that quite often they will move the nest after a few months, or when the colony grows to a certain size, they will build satellite nests in other parts of the leaves. Meaning if you do go with a bioactive setup, you need to have enough space and extra plants that if they wish to move, they can. They can bite and they can sting, so just a warning if you're planning on keeping Polyrhachis dives, and they can be very aggressive. When they get to the larger numbers, they are very, very aggressive, and even putting your hand near the tank, they will head towards it and try and get you. Being arboreal as well, it is natural for them to climb, so you must have a really good barrier in place. I have had several escapee problems and they very quickly moved the entire colony out, brood and queen and everything, into a satellite nest wherever they find it. And there's not much you can do to stop them until they've moved, and then you can try and move them back. So you must be on top of your barrier control. Nutritional requirements are just like any other ant really. They need their sugars and carbohydrates. I like to give them either honey. I go with the solid honey now. I think it's like pure solid honey, and that's just because the liquid honey, I found some of my species of ants were getting stuck in it, so I go with the more solid honey now. Either that, or I like to give them sugar water or those ant syrup candy stuff that you can buy from lots of the different ant suppliers now. They also need forms of protein. I find they accept pretty much everything I've given them. They also really do enjoy hunting, so I like to provide live fruit flies at least once a fortnight, if not once a week, just to give them that natural kind of sense of hunting like they would in the wild, as they probably are needing this. But the main bulk of their diet does consist of pre-killed insects. At this point now, where they are a couple of hundred workers strong, and like I say, 3 queens and lots of brood, I am feeding them on a daily basis 1 to 2 large crickets, and they completely destroy every last bit normally. They also need a constant supply of carbohydrates at this point, as they just smash that in as well. All in all, I think Polyrhachis dives are an amazing species and great for ant keepers and even beginner ant keepers, but you do need to be able to keep up with the colony growth, as they do grow fast, they are aggressive, they do require heating and humidity, and they do require a lot of feeding. They do get on quite well with other insects as well, not really bothering with things like isopods or millipedes, springtails. They do get a little bit bothered by the beetles in the tank, but only because the beetles are so cocky that they try and have a meal alongside them, and they're not really up for that. It's more of a get away from my food kind of attack. But they do, like I say, because I chuck in the live fruit flies occasionally, they do, and they do hunt the waxworm moths when they transform into moths. They do like to catch them. So they do hunt things occasionally, but it tends to be things that they would regularly eat anyways, not anything that I've put in there and is alive and crawling about. So they are really cool to keep in the multi-species tank. The only problem I've ever had with them was when I did try putting the Meranoplas bicolor in. They did work out a way to kill some of the Meranoplas, even by getting past their natural defenses of the Meranoplas. So that was impressive, but there we go, that is their aggressive nature coming out towards other ant colonies. And as we know, ants do go to war, so that's completely natural. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope there was some information in there that you might find useful, maybe something you didn't know, and probably a lot you already did. But as always, see you again, ant fans.